Look at a colony of army ants marching through the rainforest. 10 million blind soldiers, moving in absolute mathematical precision. They do not have leaders, managers, or corporate performance reviews. They do not have egos, insecurity, or mental breakdowns. They are the ultimate biological superorganism on planet Earth. Now look at a modern human office team of 5 people. They spend 3 weeks trying to agree on a meeting time. 2 of them hate each other because of an unread email tone. 1 is having an existential crisis in the bathroom, and the manager is trying to schedule a team-building workshop. Welcome to the ultimate biological showdown between collective swarm and individual chaos. Today, we roast the terrifying efficiency of the ant hive mind versus the neurotic mess of human teamwork. First, let us examine the terrifying mechanics of the army ant colony. An army ant colony does not act like separate individual insects. It acts like a single massive predator weighing 20 pounds spread across millions of bodies. Every individual ant is completely blind and chemically programmed. They navigate using microscopic scent trails called pheromones. If the colony needs a bridge across a gap, ants link their bodies together. Thousands of living ants form a structural rope made of claws and legs. They will hang in midair for hours, while other ants march across their backs. No ant files a complaint with the union about working conditions. No ant demands hazard pay or asks for dental benefits. If a soldier ant must sacrifice its life to protect the queen, it dies instantly without hesitation. There is zero fear of death, zero regret, and zero hesitation. Imagine a workforce where every single employee is a mindless fanatic. It is the wet dream of every corporate chief executive officer alive. Now contrast that terrifying efficiency with human cooperation. Humans evolved to cooperate in small bands of 20 hunter-gatherers. But unlike ants, every single human has a massive ego and private agenda. When 5 humans work together, 5 separate worldviews collide. 1 human wants all the credit to boost their tribal status. 1 human is quiet quitting because their feelings were hurt yesterday. 1 human is paralyzed by imposter syndrome, worrying everyone secretly hates them. And 2 humans are competing to become the new alpha leader. To get humans to walk in the same direction requires endless emotional diplomacy. We need motivational speeches, trust falls, mission statements, and free pizza. On paper, the ant superorganism should easily conquer the human species. An army ant swarm destroys everything in its path like a biological lawnmower. They overpower scorpions, tarantulas, and sleeping snakes in minutes. If a human lies down drunk in the path of army ants, they get skeletonized by morning. So how did messy, chaotic humans defeat the ultimate hive mind? The answer lies in the massive architectural flaw of swarm intelligence. An ant superorganism has zero individual common sense. Every ant blindly follows the chemical trail of the ant directly in front of it. If the scent trail accidentally loops back on itself, disaster strikes. The colony enters a fatal glitch known as the ant mill or death spiral. Hundreds of thousands of ants march in a tight, endless circle. No ant has the independent intelligence to step out of line and say, "Stop." They march in circles for days until every single ant dies of dehydration. The ultimate superorganism gets destroyed by a single loop in its own programming. Swarm intelligence is completely rigid and incapable of spontaneous creativity. Now look at the chaotic human brain in a survival crisis. Humans possess independent abstract cognition and lateral thinking. When an ancient human tribe encountered an advancing army ant swarm, they did not panic. They did not try to fight 20 million soldier ants in melee combat. The humans used their understanding of physical science and chemistry. A single human hunter picked up a burning stick from the campfire. They drew a continuous line of fire in the dry dirt around the campsite. The heat and smoke scrambled the ants' chemical pheromone tracking. The unstoppable million-ant swarm hit the fire line and turned around in confusion. Or the humans simply dug a 2-inch trench and filled it with water. Millions of apex predator insects were completely halted by a muddy puddle. 1 clever ape with a flaming branch defeated 20 million specialized soldiers in 2 minutes. Individual human intellect effortlessly neutralized collective biological brute force. Now examine the deeper psychological contrast between both systems. Ants never suffer from existential dread on a Sunday night. An ant never stares at the moon, wondering what the point of life is. An ant never asks, "Why am I carrying this heavy leaf across a hill?" It simply carries the leaf because its chemical receptors tell it to. Ants have zero anxiety because they have zero concept of a future self. Humans, on the other hand, suffer from constant psychological torment. Our massive frontal cortex runs millions of imaginary future simulations daily. We wonder if we chose the right career path, or if we are wasting our potential. We worry about our legacy, our retirement funds, and what our peers think of us. We carry the crushing emotional weight of individual self-awareness. But that same agonizing self-awareness is our greatest evolutionary superpower. Because we can imagine a non-existent future, we can invent things that do not exist. An ant colony has built the exact same dirt mound for 100 million years. They never upgraded to air conditioning, reinforced concrete, or glass windows. Humans went from sleeping in muddy caves to building orbital space stations in 10,000 years. Our dissatisfaction and restless ego drive technological progress. If humans were as content as ants, we would still be picking berries in a forest. Now let us look at the hilarious modern workplace parody of the hive mind. Modern corporate culture is a desperate attempt to turn humans into ants. Executives design open-plan offices to simulate a giant anthill. They create corporate mantras to replace chemical pheromone trails. They demand that employees act as a family and sacrifice personal time for the brand. But human biology furiously resists the hive mind conditioning. Human employees rebel with sarcasm, gossip, passive resistance, and bathroom breaks. We form secret underground alliances near the water cooler. We pretend to work while browsing social media on our phones. You can take an ape out of the jungle, but you cannot turn it into a worker ant. When corporations force humans to behave like mindless hive nodes, burnout happens. Humans wither and die emotionally, without personal agency and individual meaning. Now examine the comedy of human decision-making in groups. When ants make a group decision, they use statistical quorum sensing. If 30 ants find a good nesting site, the whole colony moves in 10 minutes. It is a mathematically perfect democratic algorithm. When humans make a group decision, they form a committee. The committee meets every Tuesday for 6 consecutive months. Everyone wants to sound smart, so they bring 40-page slide presentations. The loud narcissist in the room dominates the entire conversation with bad ideas. The quiet genius in the corner says nothing because they hate confrontation. By month 7, the committee decides to form a smaller subcommittee. Nothing gets built. Nothing gets solved, and everyone feels exhausted. In group efficiency, an anthill makes the United States Congress look like a comedy show. But look at what happens when a sudden, unpredictable black swan event occurs. When an unforeseen catastrophe hits an ant colony, the swarm fails completely. If a flood washes away the chemical scent trails, the ants drown in chaos. They have no individual leaders to improvise a new escape route. When an unforeseen catastrophe hits a human group individual, brilliance emerges. A single brave individual steps forward and takes command. A random person invents an improvised raft or builds a makeshift shelter. Human flexibility and spontaneous rebellion save the day. We are awful at routine bureaucratic alignment, but we are God-tier champions of crisis improvisation. Now look at the emotional cost of being an individual human. An ant never feels lonely in a crowded room. It is permanently connected to millions of its biological sisters. A human can live in a city of 8 million people and feel completely isolated. We long for the deep tribal connection of the ancient hunter-gatherer band. We scroll through social media feeds desperately searching for digital pheromone trails. We join internet subcultures and fandoms just to feel part of a swarm. We want the safety of the collective hive without sacrificing our precious individuality. This eternal tension between the self and the group is the central tragedy of human life. We want to be unique, special snowflakes while belonging to a cozy tribe. Ant accepts its role as a tiny disposable cell in a giant body. A human demands to be the main character of their own cinematic universe. Now examine the war tactics of both species. Ant wars are brutal meat grinders of attrition. 2 rival ant colonies will lock jaws at a borderline for 3 weeks. Hundreds of thousands of corpses pile up until one side simply runs out of bodies. There is no diplomacy, no peace treaty, no hostage exchange. Human warfare began with brute force, but quickly evolved into psychological deception. We invented the Trojan horse: tactical retreats, espionage, and military treaties. We realized that outsmarting an enemy general is cheaper than killing 10,000 soldiers. Information and psychology replaced raw body count on the battlefield. Look at the division of labor across both species. An ant is born into a biological caste that determines its entire destiny. A worker ant will dig dirt for its entire 6-week lifespan. A soldier ant with giant jaws will do nothing but guard nest gates until death. They cannot change their job, take night classes, or switch careers. A human child can be born into poverty and grow up to be an astrophysicist. We can learn completely new skills at age 40 and reinvent our lives. Our neural plasticity allows our brains to rewire themselves on demand. We are not locked into rigid physical hardware like specialized insects. We are universal generalist problem solvers, capable of mastering any domain. So let us tally the final score in this evolutionary grudge match. In mechanical efficiency and zero drama, the ant superorganism wins by a landslide. They run a zero waste, zero crime, perfectly synchronized communist society. But in creativity, adaptability, and long-term planetary conquest, humans dominate completely. The ant hive mind reached its evolutionary ceiling 50 million years ago. They will continue marching in chemical lines until the sun explodes. Humans, on the other hand, are just getting started. We stumble, argue, overthink, and complain every single day of our lives. We struggle with awkward office meetings and existential Sunday panic. But that messy, neurotic individual spark is what splits the atom and lands on Mars. It is what paints the Sistine Chapel and composes timeless symphonies. The next time you feel annoyed by your dysfunctional coworkers, smile with relief. Be glad you are not a blind ant glued to a chemical pheromone trail. Be glad you have an ego that questions authority and dreams of a better future. Your procrastination is your brain-resisting mindless factory work. Your workplace gossip is your ancient tribal software testing social alliances. Your awkwardness is the price of carrying a hyper-complex conscious mind. Embrace your messy, unpredictable human individuality. You are not a disposable cog in an insect superorganism. You are a self-conscious thinking creator, piloting a biological marvel. Step out of the artificial corporate anthill and take a deep breath. Laugh at the absurd complexity of your overthinking brain. Celebrate the chaotic, messy genius that made our species the rulers of Earth. The ants can keep their mindless hive efficiency. We will take our flawed, noisy, chaotic freedom every single time. Never let anyone reduce you to a mindless worker node in a machine. You are an individual human being with infinite creative potential. Own your chaotic mind and reign supreme as the master of planet Earth.